Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nina Shay Howard. I am a sports mom for many, many years. And today we are here to talk about, of course, sports related topics, but most importantly, we are here to talk about student athlete mental health. And for me, it's just something that's always been on the forefront for me, having a son that's played football for pretty much 20 years. And during that time, I have just met so many amazing mothers and parents. And one thing that we all share is our concern for our student athletes. So today, I thought it would be great to come on and talk about mental health as it pertains to student athletes. And I do have three amazing women who are on to talk about their journeys, the work that they're doing to advocate for student athletes. And I just want to take time to introduce them at this time. We do have Kym Hilinski joining us. She is the co founder of Hilinski's Hope Foundation with her husband, Mark Hilinski. She is the mother of amazing sons, Ryan, Kelly, and Tyler, and we're just we want to highlight what Hilinski's Hope is doing, and actually give Kym an opportunity to share about her son Tyler's life and what we're here for today. And then we also have joining us an amazing she's a young lady, but she's doing amazing work with UCLA, Dr. Jasmine Tillman. She is a licensed counseling psychologist working with the college population in the UC system since 2015. She is the assistant director of mental health training, intervention, and response for residential life and rise at UCLA. So thank you also for joining us today. Dr. Jazz. Is that what we're calling you? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So what I want to do is, Kim, should we show the video to do the intro, or actually, why don't you come on and just say hello to everyone?
Sure. So, and thank you so much for being here, Dr. Jazz and Nina. I mean, you've always been, since the beginning, since we started Hilinski's Hope, you've always been a great supporter. Think about Theo all the time. I can't believe he's in Japan playing and
I
that
know.
you're doing it.
I know.
I would be, probably over there for sure. But
Uh,
so, I'm always so thankful for you and what you do to support our student athletes and their mental health. And, our journey is a tough one. We lost our Tyler. It's been over 5 years to suicide, January 16th in 2018. And as you know, Nina, we had no idea that Tyler was struggling. He was a great, loved person and college athlete. He was a quarterback at Washington State University. And one day he was gone. And he used a firearm to pass by suicide. And he grew up in, well, we all did actually, in Southern California. And he had, a boogie board in his hand. He didn't even know how to fire the gun. So we thought to ourselves, if Tyler was struggling and suffering in silence, how many other student athletes are out there struggling and afraid to reach out for help, embarrassed, ashamed of how they were feeling? And we just didn't want to lose another Tyler, to lose another
mhm.
student athlete, to have a family, a team, coaches struggle the way we struggled since Tyler left. And we started
Absolutely.
Linsky's Hope, just a
Okay.
couple months after he passed.
And well, this is a topic that is so tough for us to talk about, but so very necessary. And I really have always admired your strength in taking your pain and your experience and making it, just using it for others to make things better and hopefully um, allow us to do what we can so that we just don't lose another life to suicide. What I want to do is I want to take a moment to show the video that you provided. And I know that we'll be doing a Tyler talk. And normally when you go into colleges, you do open with the Tyler talk. And it's so important for us to, be able to know who Tyler was and, why your mission is so important. So if you'll give me just a second, we're gonna bring that video into play.
His was a light that burned from within and shone out into the world in beams of joy that lit up everything around him.
No, not one time. Have I ever seen him down, ever?
He really was this bright light in a room, and it almost as if the weight of the world was never on his shoulders. He always stood tall. He always had a smile on his face.
Breezy, bright smiles.
His smile is beautiful. And when he smiles, his eyes get these little lines.
Laser beam throws.
And I know that I'm going to be going to a great program in Wazoo and playing for head coach Mike Leach. I can't wait. I'm excited.
He is a real easygoing guy. He's everybody's type.
And moments of sheer electricity that ignited a legend.
And he left and he went to Pullman because he loved the people.
What he did on a Saturday night on the Palouse. Against Boise State, against all odds.
Touchdown, Washington State.
I mean, he played like Superman, almost.
Will be talked about forever.
A rush of 4. Hilinski has his left. Caught, made it, the catchment to the 20-yard line. More over the 10. Runs for the win. Dives for the pylon. Touchdown, Washington State. Touchdown, Washington State if it stands.
The ruling on the field stands. Touchdown, Washington.
It's a comeback for the ages. An all-time Cougar win.
They carried him off the field that night under the lights. There were a lot of things right with Tyler Hilinski, but there was something wrong too, something dark and ominous that took hold of his soul and wouldn't let go.
Finally just kind of opened up and said, I'm sad, but I can't base the sadness off anything. I can't pick one thing that I'm sad about. It's just an overwhelming sadness.
That overwhelming sadness was depression, mental illness. A week after Tyler took his own life, hundreds and hundreds of people gathered at the Cougar statue in front of Martin Stadium. Not a word was spoken, but 1,000 questions were asked, and they are still being asked. If even the brightest and the strongest are no match for the disease, what chance do the rest of us have?
If you have a sprained ankle, you go see the trainer. If you get hit in the head, you got to go through a concussion protocol. And we have to start to treat, some of this mental illness stuff the same way.
But Tyler's light still shines. It shines on research and science. It shines on shattering stigmas, and it illuminates the mystifying darkness that surrounds mental illness. It's a path, a beacon. It's a hope. We call it Hilinski's Hope.
Well, Kym, every time I see that, it just, really does tug at my heart. And so I can only imagine what your journey has been like. So where do I just want you to begin, just to tell us more about that journey with Tyler.
Yeah, it's, I tell people all the time, and it's maybe in one of the videos that you might show later, but once someone passes, you don't stop loving them, right? And so
Right.
This is how I continue to show Tyler how much I love him, how much I love our student athletes, and we work hard. I mean, Christine just joined too. She's my sister-in-law, but I call her my sister.
Mhm.
That's how we're just coming together to support our student athletes and their mental health. And it's a struggle without him every single day, and in trying to smile. And I have to tell myself each morning before I even open my eyes that he's not coming back, that he is truly gone. And I believe that I will see him again. But until that day does come, I have a lot of work to do. And this is the path. This is our purpose, through pain. This is what we've chosen to do. And somehow our mission has, I think this is why it has resonated with so many people. We're at a crisis situation, right? In our country, and we're losing too many people to suicide every single day, and too many student athletes to suicide as well. And I know that when we lost Tyler, it took us a couple of hours to really realize that he had passed by suicide, that it wasn't, an accident, that he took his own life. And so as we started doing research and looking into it, we found out that suicide, and you know this, Dr. Jazz, more than I do, is that suicide is the second leading cause of death. I think it's between 15 and 25-year-olds. And I had no idea about that stat. Kelly was in that first video, and it was just a couple weeks before Tyler passed that we were all on a vacation, a family vacation, just the five of us. It's my husband and I and our three sons. And he told Kelly, I'm sad, but I don't know why I'm sad. And this is coming from a kid who was just loved by everyone who knew him, and just doted on by his mom and dad so much, and money in his bank. He had a car, he had a girlfriend or two, and he had teammates that were his best friends. And so, that kid who was struggling, it had to be, depression, anxiety. And I can tell you this, we don't know why he left. He didn't leave a note. He didn't tell us, Mom and Dad, I love you so much, but this is why I have to go. So in the 5.5 years that he's passed, what we've done is we've tried to put together these breadcrumbs, that we found out after the fact, just a little, sign here, something there. I wish I knew, because what I would do is I would be transparent, as I always am, and I would tell everybody, don't do this, do this, and maybe, everything's going to be okay. But I don't know that. So we just continue to share Tyler's story, our journey, in the hopes that it changes and saves a life.
Absolutely. Hi, Christine. Hi.
Hello.
I think that's what we have to do. I'm so sorry for your loss, and it's just unimaginable as a parent. But we do obviously have to continue the conversation, and then we just have to see how we can work, which is why I think I know Dr. Tillman's work is so important. We have to figure out how we can connect, how we can get through, how we can provide the type of care that college students need, and student athletes in particular, with all of the challenges and the pressure that they face. I think sometimes it's just so compounded. But Dr. Tillman, can you explain what it's like for you working at the CAP Center at UCLA and working with the student population?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kym, for sharing Tyler with us, being so open and vulnerable. I really, really appreciate it. I also want to update your statistic. Unfortunately, it's a wider range. It starts at age 10 now. And so it's becoming, it's impacting younger and younger. Yeah. My work, so I'm primarily with residential life, but I have done a lot of work in counseling centers, and I do work closely with the UCLA Counseling Center. I have also done work with student athletes as well as coaches at UCLA. And in a private practice, I do work with performers. So there is definitely some experiences that I've had sitting in front of clients, but also sitting in front of coaches and leadership around this topic of mental health and the pervasiveness of it and how it impacts everyone. So, you know, I would say one of the biggest themes that comes up in my work, really with students who identify as having suicide ideation, um, it can range from, having symptoms of depression and having intrusive thoughts. And those are just thoughts that like you don't want to have, but they come in and, wanting to just turn their minds off and, wanting the intrusive thoughts to stop. There could be thoughts that could range from taking action on suicidal thoughts, how you're going to do it, planning it, but it could also just be negative self-talk, and they just want it to stop. And then there could also be folks who are sitting in front of me who have higher levels of psychiatric concerns where it may fall under psychosis, schizophrenia, multiple personality disorder, where it literally does feel like it's someone else who is telling them to do certain things or, providing these thoughts that really, really make it hard to just live day to day and navigate. And so I also want to acknowledge that sometimes people who attempt suicide and are successful, it may not be because they felt they wanted to do it, but they felt like they were told to do it. And so that's really, really hard to intervene and try to get ahead of. But what I would say is the themes that have been really, really helpful for these students, having a space to talk about it, maybe even talking about what makes it hard to talk about, I think is one of the biggest issues as well. In the context of athletics, there is still a stigma as it pertains to therapy and not wanting to be perceived as weak. And this is not just the mental health, but physical health too. Let's say you have a starring role and you get an injury, but you don't want that role to be taken from you. So you're not going to tell anyone. And then the injury is going to persist and persist until something bad happens or worse happens. And it's the same with mental health. If we're not talking about it, it's going to persist, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And unfortunately, when it's at its worst, that's when they start to see a therapist. So, how can we decrease the stigma to where people start to seek therapy as soon as they start having signs and symptoms versus when they wait until it is at its worst?
Right.
And so those are the things that come up quite a bit.
So one of the things that
Oh, I was just going to add really quick, just to highlight what you just said. My husband always says, you don't need a crisis to ask for help. And right there is exactly right. We always say, don't wait until it gets to a crisis level, right? You got to reach out and ask for help when you are struggling, and it's okay. And so we echo so much of what you just said, Dr. Jazz. So thank you for that insight. And 10 years old is just it's so hard to get.
it is tough. Well, I was hearing more and more about the long-term effects of, let's say, COVID, and in addition to the injuries, and just so many things that I'm thinking. Dr. Jazz, for you to be able to provide the services there on campus, statistics are showing also that it's more challenging for you to really be able to help, in ways, because you have, especially at a school like UCLA, you have such a large student population there. And then you have kids that will come in and actually ask for help. But then you have, like you said, you have a lot of kids that don't, and especially student athletes with the stigma, related to mental health. So sometimes it's just so challenging. And I was just, one of the questions that I had for you, Dr. Jazz, is what does that look like for an athlete, a student athlete coming in to help? I mean, do you find that there are challenges sometimes just like with scheduling, for them to come in to see you? And how do you provide services for them there on campus?
Yeah, excellent question. So yes, there are many challenges since COVID. I would say that those challenges are being tackled more and more. So I feel like it's more on the student to actually just take advantage of the resources available to them. What I would say though is the first point that you made with regard to so many more people could be struggling than what we actually know and who actually takes advantage of the services. And so the first thing is it's really, really important for there to be, department-wide programming to where, like, regardless of if you go to an individual provider, you're going to get some sort of psychoeducation around mental health and wellness, and how important it is as a student, as a student athlete. So there has to be just an overall culture around, mental wealth. I'm sorry, mental wellness and health. And so that's the first thing, because I just think it's going to hit so many minds at once, and it may also give the motivation of like, oh, I can talk about this. It's safe to talk about. Oh, I'm going to go and have therapy. Now, as it pertains to individual therapy, I don't think that schedules are as big of an issue anymore, because there have been, I think, so many more ways to access mental health remotely
Right.
because of the pandemic. So that is probably a pro because of the pandemic, is how accessible mental health can be in person and now remotely. And so having a remote session is acceptable. When you have now a client who's a student athlete and now they're going to be away for, several games, you can now have a remote
Yes.
session. So you don't
Right.
have to feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be without treatment, or I'm not going to be able to see this client because they're going to be gone. We have remote. We also emphasize the 24/7 crisis hotline, because not every therapist is going to be available. Not all therapists are going to be available after hours. And so you want to have and know you have some support in the middle of the night. And we have that. And so it's just needs to be known and taken advantage of even more.
Absolutely. So I know that the work that Hilinski's Hope is doing is definitely trying to bring awareness to campuses and to open up the dialogue and to work with administrations to promote better practices. And also, Kim, can you speak to that even more?
Yeah, sure. So,
Mhm.
I can tell you that the landscape has changed in the 5.5 years since we started Hilinski's Hope. It's different. The pendulum is swinging the other way. In the beginning, I think a lot of the athletic directors, coaches were leery about, like, what's Hilinski's Hope all about? Are they going to tell my players that, to take a mental health day once a week? I think there was a little bit skepticism, but that has changed so much. So we've done about 200 or so Tyler Talks, and we go to campus, and we now ask, we want every student athlete there. We want every coach, every assistant coach. We always ask for that of mental health professionals there, Dr. Jazz. It's very important to us that they are there. And Nina, you were there at UCLA. Christine, you were there too, when we were in the middle of a Tyler Talk and a player broke down. And it was so great to have, Ross there. It
Yes.
was also great to see the head coach, come over and love on that player. every teammate, you know, loving on them too. So as we go to these campuses and we talk, to have the AD there sitting in that, you know, that first row, and the assistant ADs and the athletic trainers, I think it lets all the student athletes know that they truly buy into this message, that they really are supporting the mental health of their student athletes. And what we've learned, and my husband and I, and Christine, well, she's much smarter than we are in this field, but we have learned that if these athletes are taking care of their mental health, they're going to be a much happier player in life and a much better athlete on the field or on the court. It all goes together. And I'm not telling you something that you don't know, Dr. Jazz. So as we do these Tyler Talks, we have learned from our student athletes that they do want to take care of their mental health. They are struggling. You mentioned COVID and the pandemic earlier. They have so much on their plates. First, they're students, right? And so they got to get to class. They got to take those tests. They got to, you know, prepare for, you know, a presentation in class. But then they also have to get to practice, and maybe that's twice a day. And they lift. And then they, you know, you throw in COVID where their sport was taken from them. Christine has two sons that they were both in high school when COVID happened. Or was Drew in college? Chrissy, I'm trying to remember.
No, they were junior and senior in high school.
Yeah. And so that was tough on them. And I remember that, you know, their sport was taken away from them. So you throw in COVID, you throw in, you know, Dr. Jazz, the transfer portal, which is a big part of what's going on in, you know, the academic landscape. And then NIL deals, which there's some that have $1 million deals in these commercials, right? And there's some that don't have anything. And we're hearing a lot from these athletes. They send home, you know, their stipends. And so they've got mom and dad and maybe an uncle who are saying, where's your NIL money, right? And that's just so much pressure coming at them too. And then social media. I mean, there's just so much that they're juggling and so much that's on their plate. And I don't think they realize the pressure and the stress that they're under. And I mean, Christine, you have really firsthand knowledge because of your two sons. If you want to share a little bit about what they struggled with and what they went through.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so Andrew and Aiden are Tyler's cousins, and Aiden was in his junior year and Drew was in his senior year. And as you all know, or people who have kids who are student athletes and they want to play in college, junior year is so important. And it's really when they're identified for the most part between their sophomore and junior year. And it was just really hard to not have a season and to not be able to set yourself apart or find a way to be identified, if you will, along with all of the emotional aspects of being at home and stuck in your room and learning online and trying to figure all of that out while you're a young person who's, you know, dealing with raging hormones and all of that going on as you're trying to grow. And it was really difficult. And then, you know, there's been this kind of ripple effect through. It probably won't wash out until the last 2019 person plays their last game in college, because we've got that extra year that was added for all of those college kids that really impacted the high school kids because they didn't get an extra year. They're not getting that extra year to set themselves apart. So I think it just really flooded that portal, that transfer portal too, because a lot of kids went to schools they didn't want to be at because they wanted to play, and then they didn't get the opportunity to play. It's just been a real battle for a lot of kids, and mine did that. One of mine went to St. Mary's to play, and it just wasn't a good fit for him, and then he ended up transferring and decided to not play anymore. And then the younger ones in that middle of coming back from a Pac-12 school to a JC to trying to find out where he's going to fit next year. And so, and that's just, and we're lucky, right? We're lucky that they both have parental support and they have financial support, and most kids aren't that lucky. So, and they're just trying to battle through so many different aspects and difficulties, emotionally and physically. I don't know how kids do it today. I wouldn't last a day.
I have to add to that. I'm on the board of College Football Moms Association, and so we're constantly talking every day. We're messaging to each other, and I remember just before COVID, my son had gotten injured, and this was just before his senior year, and didn't get a chance to play. And he graduated from UCLA, and he decided to do his last year of eligibility at the University of Oklahoma, and he was there 2 weeks. Nothing was happening, no playing happening, and he was just kind of running routes with the quarterback and tore his Achilles. So here we are, COVID happening. He's just kind of getting over, dealing with one injury and then a second happening. And then he was feeling the pressure of, this is my last opportunity to play and show anything. And I can't sit out, as, some students did. And you had the different divisions decided, okay, well, our kids are not going to play in the Pac-12. They weren't playing during COVID. And they were in the Big 12, and he was like, I can't sit out. I have to do this. So imagine, there was so much going on, and I really needed to talk to someone, because I felt like, am I being a bad mom for sitting and supporting him to play during COVID with all of the, medical advice? And it was just a lot. It was just a lot. And when I talked to my son, everything is, I'm good. I'm good. Everything is, I'm good. You never really get a chance to have a full on conversation and really understand what's going on. And sometimes I'll hear him talking in the room, and he might say, well, I'm just, thinking about this. But I don't get an opportunity to have those conversations with him. So, to your point, Kim and Dr. Jazz, sometimes we just don't know what's going on, and it is so hard as a parent to not know how you can help, and just wondering, is everything okay, especially when you know that they have all of these pressures. And, Dr. Jazz, one of the things that I found is, once my son was on campus as a college student, I no longer had access to kind of like what was going on. I couldn't find out anything. And then, let's say, a student comes in and you identify that they do have some serious concerns. They're an adult. They have a right to privacy. And so, for families, sometimes we feel like we're really on the outside. We just don't know how to know what's going on, and then how we can help. So I'm just wondering, what is your advice as to how we can help to support and just do what we can on our
Yeah.
end?
Yeah, excellent question. Yes, ethically, whenever a student is of age, which is at least 18 years old, then they have a right to confidential mental health services. And so, in my experience, if I have received a phone call or two from a concerned parent, all I can do is just take the information that they're willing to give me, and I will gladly take it. I will gladly take the information. I just won't be able to return any information to them unless I have the consent of the student. And so I will let the student know that their parent called and they're concerned. And because of the limits of me talking to the parent, I encourage a conversation that the student needs to have with their parent, especially if it makes sense. Like, I also am a parent. So if I am coming from that perspective too, I would be a little bit more understanding of where the parent is coming from, but also encourage communication. I'm in the business of relationships and the business of communication, so that is going to be the first thing that I encourage. But I also will encourage the parent to ask more open-ended questions. And so the questions that do not give you a yes or no answer or I'm good, but ones that they are like, tell me about your day, or how did this go? Instead of a yes or no response, think about how you ask a question to where yes or no is not, going to be the appropriate response. Then hopefully they can give you a little bit more to where there could be even more follow-up questions and more can come out of them. I also think that it could be good to have some outings or experiences with your student athlete where it's a little bit more laid back and low key, because it feels um, more likely that they could be more vulnerable to you as well. Just random outing or some random relaxing time to bond. You never know what can come up from that.
That is true.
I'll share with you, Dr. Jazz. So we're 5 of us were very, very close. I mean, I don't really like the phrase helicopter parents, but we were, we, since Little League and ASO soccer, we were always their coach or the team mom or something like that. And, we lived in Southern California. Tyler went to school in Washington State, but we were always, flying back and forth to see him. We were so close. We always had conversations. And I mean, we talked about everything, but the one thing we didn't talk about was mental health. And he just seemed happy, well-adjusted, and that just slipped. It slipped, and we didn't see the signs. And looking back, now hindsight, right? There were probably some, like the texts at the end. We were always texting or talking. They got a little bit less. The texts before he passed, months before, were much more descriptive and much more open. But at the end, they were less and less. And we thought, okay, he's 21. We have to give him his space. He's growing up, maybe distancing a little bit. And what I would tell parents is, and my husband at the time, he sort of had this feeling in his gut. Like he said, something is different. Something is a little bit off about Tyler. And we sort of chalked it up to, he is 21. He's a couple states away. He's a quarterback. He's got a lot on his plate. And so I think what I would tell parents is, if you do have that feeling, if there's something that seems a little bit off, push it, push it. Don't let it drop. And I think you're just right. Those open-ended questions, those outings, those, taking yourself in a different kind of space to be with them. I think that's such great information and a suggestion. And I commend you for sharing your thoughts and your opinions, with our parents today, because we're scared, right? Nina, you talked about it earlier, right? It's a scary place to be. And well, here I am sitting in Evanston, which is a suburb of Chicago. We raised our kids in California. When Ryan, our youngest one, he was a junior in high school when Tyler passed. And he said, you know what? I can't play in the Pac-12. He had an offer actually from UCLA. He said, I got to go away. I can't play in the same stadiums that Tyler played in. So he said, I'm going to go play in the SEC. So he committed to USC, the other USC, the Gamecocks. And our whole family moved to South Carolina, and we got a house there. And 2 years later, his head coach gets fired. And so he hits the transfer portal, and he's up here at Northwestern University, which is a wonderful school. And so what do? We got an apartment here in Evanston, right? So we fly back and forth from South Carolina to Evanston to be with Ryan, and he's in the other room. He actually has an apartment right across the street with his teammates, but he's here more with us, and we live in a 55 plus apartment complex. And they all love him here. They know him. I mean, Chrissy's been here, it's just, we struggle with how to live, right? We don't know what Ryan is having a tough time. He started last year, he started half of the year before. This year, he's not the starter. Last year, at the end of the season, he tore his ACL and his MCL. He had to have reconstructive surgery. That kid has so much going on his plate. And maybe I've hindered him growing up by, he's moving to South Carolina, so am I. He was moving to Chicago, so am I. But we find strength, maybe comfort, I don't know if that's the right word, by being close to each other. I tell people all the time, we're either going to live on the same block or a zip code apart from each other as they age, get married, which I don't even know when that will happen. It's just too hard, and have children. But I do think those conversations are just so important. And sadly, we didn't have conversations about mental health.
Well, I think I don't know. I don't consider myself a helicopter mom. I guess I took on the name Mama Bear because I'm just going to be there, and I want to give the hugs, and I want to check in and make sure that they're doing well. I remember we talked about this at the Tyler Talk at UCLA. I made a point of standing outside the locker room and standing out in the tunnel when there were guys who I knew that their parents weren't there and their moms weren't there. So I made sure to give them a hug if it was a tough game, or if I saw that someone had a slight injury, or even more serious injury. I just wanted to make sure that they knew that they were cared about. So I'll take that. And then, Kym, I would just say, from what you've experienced, no one cannot understand you wanting to be close and to just make sure that Ryan is okay. I admire the fact that you are able to support him, in playing football, because it's such a tough sport. One of the things that we had not touched on is the fact that when you had an autopsy done, when you looked at Tyler's brain, there were signs of CTE. And so, that's another, concern. It's just so much to think about.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. So, we fly up, and Christine was there, I think, the day after we got up to Pullman. So, we find out in the evening that Tyler passed by suicide, and it's not an easy flight to get from Southern California to Eastern Washington. So we took the first flight out the next day, and we get to the funeral home, and the coroner was there. And I remember one of the first questions they asked us is, the Mayo Clinic called, and they want Tyler's brain. And I remember, it was fuzzy. Chrissy, you remember too. And I just remember thinking, well, of course, they can have his brain. And it was to do a brain autopsy, but there's so many things that are going through your mind. And about 6 months later, we got the results from them, and he had stage 1 CTE. And I think about that. I do remember saying, oh, I really don't want my sons to play football. They started at 5 or 6. And, I allowed them to play. I allowed them to play it. And then I don't know that football was the reason that Tyler got CTE. So we've never really jumped on that bandwagon, because I think it would be irresponsible of me to call out football and say, that's why Tyler got CTE and no one should ever play football again. So we haven't gone there, but I can tell you the conversations that we had with Ryan, because he was a junior heading into his senior year, going to play football again, and then going off to college. And it was, Ryan, your brother had stage 1 CTE. We think he may have gotten it from playing football. and he was 18 or just turning 18. And what I wanted to do was kidnap him, take him away, just don't let him play football again. But he was, an adult, and it was his decision, and we had to support that decision, right? And he said, I love football. Tyler loved football, and I'm going to keep playing. And I can't tell you how heavy that conversation was. And it wasn't just one conversation. It was a lot of conversations. So I will always be transparent. We don't include the fact that Tyler had CTE in our Tyler Talks. It's not something that I wouldn't share if someone reached out and asked me about. It's just that it doesn't seem right for those talks. Those talks are about mental health. And I do think what happened with the CTE is that Tyler probably was depressed and anxious. And maybe Dr. Jazz, you can talk to this more. But we have a good friend, Dr. Josie Nicholson, who's a sports psychologist at Ole Miss. She actually is the host of our podcast. It's United Conversations for Student Athletes. But what and you know this, you can't test for CTE in the living. But what she tells us is that if an athlete is starting to think differently, if they're having thoughts in their head, that they can, I don't know if counsel is the right word. So maybe maybe I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you do? I have NFL retired friends who tell me that they talk about CTE, between each other, and each day or every other day, they step back and look and say, okay, am I seeing things the same way? Am I processing the same things the same way? And Junior Seau, he knew that something was wrong in his brain, and that's why he took his life by, I think it's killing himself in the abdomen. But it's such a struggle for so many of our athletes who play football, who play soccer, lacrosse. So Dr. Jazz, what are your thoughts on CTE and athletes?
Yeah, it's a great question. I also am hoping that eventually there could be advances in medical technology to where you can test for it before something really sad happens. But I definitely would agree. And this is not just even with student athletes, but with everyone. If you feel like, the person that you have been around a while and, kind of know their behaviors or mannerisms, and if you feel like there's a change, I definitely would encourage you to approach them and be like, hey, I've noticed XYZ and this feels off or feels different. I just wanted to check in, because it could also be a blind spot for them. They didn't even realize that they are acting this way. But I think that that's an invitation for maybe intervention. And I would imagine, and I would hope that the earlier we can intervene, the chances could be significantly decreased, that it could be a suicide or some other risky behavior that wouldn't otherwise happen. Yeah, I think that it's a higher risk because of certain sports. It is. And I'm really hopeful that there could be more advances in technology to determine and diagnose it before.
Mark has and Mark, he's in the other room. You can't hear me, but as a doctor, and I can't remember her last name. She has a patent out to test CTE in the living. She hasn't developed the test yet for it, so it's out there. Doctors, neurologists are working on it. It's just hasn't happened yet, and I'm pretty sure that it will happen in my lifetime, and that we can test for CTE in the living.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I think whatever significant observations that we can make to let the loved one know, and then try and intervene as soon as we can.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I can just add something really quickly that I've heard my brother say now, and he mentions it in all the Tyler talks, and it's one thing that sticks with me, and I hope that everyone remembers. And you touched on it, Dr. Jazz. Is it Tillman? Is that pronouncing it correctly? Okay, Dr. Tillman. So he always says, and you're saying, talk to people, check in, make sure they're okay. If you have the slightest belief that there could be a problem. And Mark says in the talks, do just that. Like, if you think there's a problem, because it's better to try and help someone who doesn't need it than miss someone who does. And honestly, it almost makes me cry every time I say it, because it's so true. And especially as lay people, most of the time we don't know what to do, right? And so I think that just talking, asking the questions, the hard questions, direct questions, isn't that part of the whole myth of suicide, right? Used to be, don't ask somebody if they're contemplating suicide. And now, and the truth is, the more direct you are, the more direct answer you're likely to get back. And and you can maybe touch on that more, but I just think that intervening or asking a question if you have any concern is one way to go, especially as a parent or friend or loved one.
Yes, that's exactly right.
True.
That's exactly right. There's a myth that when you ask about suicide, that it's going to put the thought in their head, if it wasn't in their head, and make them more likely to do it. But it actually makes them more seen, and it is a form of intervention. So you probably help that person tremendously.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't get a chance to, and I wanted to introduce. We were waiting for one other guest, Janice Miller. She is on with us. I don't see you, Janice, but I think she's in there somewhere. Janice is another mother who I recently got a chance to talk to, and I thought it would be just so important to have her on and to be able to have her share her journey. Are you there, Janice? Okay, I saw her name pop up. There she is. Hi, how are you? Can you, I think you, no, you're not on mute. Can you hear us? Can you all hear her? I don't hear Janice.
I don't.
Check your microphones, Janice, if you can. So while Janice is looking to get her microphone up and running, I just wanted to have her come on and share her story. She, like Kym, experienced losing a child to suicide. She is the mother of Alana Miller. Alana was a freshman at Southern University, beautiful young lady, cheerleader, who took her life by suicide. And so I know Janice has a lot to share with us, and she's advocating in the same way that Kym is. And so I just wanted her to come on and be able to share with us today. Are you there?
Can you hear me
Yes,
now? Okay.
we can hear you now.
Okay,
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you had to come in on your break from teaching.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Well, we've been talking, and I'm so glad that you can join us. And I would love for you to just come on in and just share with us about your journey and tell us about your wonderful daughter, Alana.
Okay. Arlena was a freshman cheerleader at Southern University in Baton Rouge on an academic full scholarship for 4 years, majoring in agriculture. And we later found out that she was dealing with anxiety and depression. And I think she was stressed out because she tore her ACL. A cheerleader fell out of stunt, landed on her knee, and it popped. And she tore her ACL. And I think that started her into a deep, dark place that we didn't know because she was always smiling and happy. And in her post, she said, check in on your strong friends. And I felt like she was talking to all of us because she was there for everyone else. But yet she was hiding behind a smile. So I started the Arlena Janelle Miller Check on Your Strong Friends Foundation, and we're in Texas. And our goal is to bring awareness to mental health, especially our young adults. Um, Also, we started a walk last year. The city of DeSoto underwrote and did everything for us. So every first Saturday in May in DeSoto, which is the city she graduated from, DeSoto High School and the Early College Academy, we're going to do a mental health walk. And it's stomp out or walk out the stigma and to bring awareness to mental health. Um, I'm trying to be as proactive as I can and tell people you don't have to suffer in silence. We also have her book. It's just released, The Silent Battle Within, Check In on Your Strong Friends. And it's a kid-friendly book. It was important that it was kid-friendly, where Arlena is in the book giving others strategies to deal with anxiety, depression, and stress. And there will be a journal because we want students between junior high to college to be able to write their thoughts down, and there's going to be a coloring book for the younger kids. So my goal is to be as proactive as I can and to bring as much awareness. I check in with the cheerleaders. There's 2 scholarships in her name. There's one under the foundation, and then there's one at Southern University under her name, the Elena J. Miller Memorial Scholarship for a deserving Southern University cheerleader. So we've given out 4 of those scholarships already within a year, and we've given out. She started this her junior year in high school when the pandemic happened. We gave 2 of the senior cheerleaders at DeSoto a scholarship. And she said, Mom, can you do this every year for me? And I was like, if I can afford it, I will. And she laughed and walked off. She know I would do anything for her. But my goal is to help as many people as I can. There are so many people suffering, and not just our young students and athletes, but there's vets that it's so hard for them to get benefits. My dad was a disabled vet, and my dad used to say it's so easy to enlist, but it's so hard to get help. And my goal is to just service and help as many people because I do not want another parent to get the call that I received. Um, it's something that you can't explain. My goal every day is to be as productive as I can and just help anyone I can and just keep spreading the word that you're not weak. You're so strong and courageous to admit that you need help. My church, my faith, my grief counseling for a year, it's been a year and 5 months, has gotten me to this point where I'm at now. I changed jobs. I was a admit when Arlena died, and I went back in the classroom and I said, I need this for me. And it was the best decision. It's my second year back in the classroom, and I enjoy it. I go home every day. I don't take any work with me. I go home, and I love it. So and my counselor also told me something, Miller, maybe you should start by exercising, get with your trainer, because I used to exercise all the time. And it was good for me. You never know where you're going to end up in life, and you never know the people that you're going to meet. I've met some amazing people when we did the Dr. Phil show, and they have helped me a lot. I think that was part of my healing because we all had lost our babies. I think Sarah died a couple of weeks before Elena, or a month, and her mom and dad, and then Morgan's mom, they have Morgan's message. I can't explain it, but it was like a healing moment because all of us had this one thing in common. All our athletes were just beautiful people, and they chose suicide. And just to love on them, hug on them, it meant a lot. And this is a journey I know God has me on. It's not me, it's Him. And I'm going to do my best to help whoever I can. And that's all we want to do is just spread the word. And I chose our athletes because they're the ones out front and people see them all the time. So my goal is within a year and hopefully next year, I can do a mini conference for athletes. And I want to start with DeSoto because that's where she graduated from high school and work my way from there.
Wow. Well, I can't imagine what, again, as I said earlier, what you are experiencing. But I know that the work and the commitment that you're making is in itself honoring your daughter just by making sure that you are, like you said, spreading the word, doing what you can to make a difference. And certainly Kym knows that so well. We talked about this a little bit last night, just about being busy and helping. And I know, Kym, you mentioned that this all the work that you do and the schedule that you keep going to the schools and going to Washington and speaking with lawmakers there, that helps, and that's how you honor your son as well.
Yeah. So I met Arlena's dad. Was not this past May, but the May before. He was on the Today Show, and I'm so sad that you weren't there. But I remember him saying, you know, what she said, and I don't know if it was a text that she sent or a phone call or an email, but that phrase, you know, check in on your strong. I think about that all the time. And you said it exactly, right? Our student athletes are taught from a very young age how to be so strong, you know, how to grind through a tough practice, a tough game, possibly, you know, a minor injury. But Dr. Jazz, you know this as well. You can't grind through a mental health struggle. And we agree with you, Janice. We always say, it's a strength and not a weakness to reach out and ask for help. And I do think, well, I said it earlier, I do think our athletes are realizing that, and many more of them are reaching out and asking for help. And I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. I know you miss your sweet daughter.
Thank you.
It's a struggle. We've been on this journey a bit longer than you. It's 5.5 years that Tyler has been gone. And, you know, I think our path, maybe we're taking a little bit of a different approach, but we're on the same path, right? We're trying to help others. And some days I just want to run away. I really do. I just want to go. I share this with Christine all the time. I mean, when Tyler passed, my husband and I had this tough conversation because we had 3 sons, and it was always divide and conquer. Okay, I'm going to go to this practice. You're going to go to that game. We always have to make sure that someone is there for them. And so when we lost Tyler, we're like, okay, who's going to go be with Tyler? Right? Who's going to go? And it wasn't, you know, just a one-off conversation. We talked about it for a while. And we realized, and our oldest son, Kelly, helped us realize this, that Tyler wasn't in pain anymore. Whatever he was struggling with, it was gone. And I can tell you this, Janice, our sons all went to private schools, Catholic schools. They went to mass twice a week, on Fridays with the school, on Sundays with us, and they had God in their life. And it's a struggle for me. My conversations with God are kind of tough. You know, I'm like, okay, my son believed in you. He had faith. Why didn't you step in and save him? And so it's tough for me. So in the end, Mark and I decided that we are needed more here, and our work and, you know, our passion, our love for Tyler, our love for our student athletes has kept us here and sort of kept us, you know, putting one foot in front of the other and just trying to put good into this world. And right now, as you know, this world is going through so much, right? But there's a lot of work that we have to do, you know, and I'm grateful is a tough word for me. You know, am I grateful to do this work? I think I'd much rather be doing this than not doing it. It sort of helps me help others, and I'm sure you can relate to that.
Mhm. I wanted to find out. I know, like I said, I've been knowing Kym for a long time, and I've been along on Tyler Talk, and I know the work that they are doing through the foundation. Janice, I was wondering if with Southern University, what have you seen as far as some of the changes and some of the things that they have done to make situations better? Because I know that you got a lot of support from the community who loved your daughter and definitely were just not expecting, as you were, for this to happen. So what have you seen done to make a difference?
I know that they do have more counselors on campus. The athletes have their counselors. I think right after Arlena's passing, they received a grant, I think, for counseling, but they do have more counselors. There are 3 young men. I don't know if you knew the story. They were coming home from school for Christmas break, and they were changing a flat tire, and they played in the band, the 3 Human Jukebox young men, and a truck driver hit them, and he killed them instantly. And their moms and I were in a group chat, and we see each other probably once every other month, and we're each other's support system. And I received a text today, or was it yesterday? It's been 10 months. I didn't reply because these young men died. It was a week before Elena's 20th birthday. And one of the Southern University parents text me, and then the National Alumni President at the time, Miss Laquita, she said, I couldn't call you. And she said, because I didn't know what to say to you. Southern University has this HBCU love that I've never experienced because I didn't graduate from an HBCU. They love on you, they support you, but these 3 ladies and their families, it's like we've become family now. It's something tragedy. And the sad thing is we didn't know each other before, but we really know each other now. And we stay less than 30 minutes from each other. One stays in Cedar Hill, one's in Irving, one's in Red Oak, and I'm in Waxahachie. And one of their sons got to meet Arlena. But you guys, the saddest part is that Southern University did a dedication to Arlena I've never seen before for a college student. And they celebrated her. These 3 band members were with the rest of the band members spelling out her name on the field, Arlena. This was in September. Come December, they're dead. And it hurt me because I don't think any parent can explain how you feel when you lose your kid. And all 3 of them lost their babies, just like Arlena's my baby. And I can't thank Southern enough for celebrating Arlena because they didn't have to. They dedicated their first home game last year to Arlena. And it was very emotional. My mom, my family, we all went. And they was like, did you know this was going to happen? I had no idea. They had her name all over the scoreboard. Like I said, the band performed. They presented me with her uniform and this big, huge shadow box. It took like 3 guys to carry it to the SUV. So you asked me about Southern. I go every year to the Bayou Classic. It's been 2 years since she's passed. It'll be in November. It's the 50th year. I last year went down with another mom, and we celebrated the seniors at the basketball game and gave them their flowers. And then we went back in at the end of April, and we did a gala for them, a blue and gold gala. And we celebrated the cheerleaders, but we celebrated the 4 senior cheerleaders, or 5. I just want to love on them because I don't think people understand how they're hurting because they were her teammates. They were her family away from home. Helena loves Southern cheer. You know, you don't usually see a freshman out front doing the things Elena was doing. And then she was on the competition squad. So I thank Southern for loving on my baby when she was there. And I thank them for constantly loving on me. And I thank the 3 human jukebox moms for just loving me and accepting me. And we all are going through this together. They lost their sons another way, not from suicide, from a tragic accident, but we all lost our babies. So I'm grateful. And I tell people all the time, I'm grateful for the people who have really supported me. I can name them on 2 fingers, and that's fine. But I thank them for their love and support. This is not easy. And my pastor, he was I have an awesome pastor in church. I mean, I know people say that's your opinion, but they have really been there for me. My pastor helped me pick out her casket. He helped me do everything. I don't know if you've ever been somewhere, but you weren't there, because I was there at the funeral home. But y'all, I didn't hear anything the director was saying. I was just sitting there. I was just out of it. He guided me. He helped me with everything, and I'm grateful for that. My whole church family, the grief ministry, my grief counselor, Reverend Denise. I mean, I can pick up the phone. I called her the other day. Anytime I need her, she's checking in with me. That means a lot when you have a strong church family that supports you and that's there for you afterwards, because there are a lot of people there when it happens, but it's the after effect. And my pastor said something one time: forgive God for taking your loved one, Kym. And that was a hard pill to swallow. And I'm still taking it piece by piece, that pill, because December, I already know it's going to be hard for me, because Elena would be 21 in December. That's her birthday, 2 weeks before Christmas, 12/12, around 12. That's when she was born. So I just take it day by day. Um, and I'm grateful that God gave me the strength to keep going. That's what I'm most grateful for. Um, People look at me, they ask me some questions, and sometimes they just look at me and don't know what to say. And I tell them it's okay, because at the end of the day, if you don't have your faith, you don't have anything else. And I want to be productive. I don't want to be busy. I want to be productive. I want to do something that can help somebody else. And I truly believe Arlena left that message, because she knows her mom. She knows what I'm going to do. And then she left me a letter in the car telling me, Mom, I was in pain. And I think Baton Rouge Police Department, they left that letter when I got her car, and it was in a seal envelope. And she was explaining to me, Mom, that I was hurting. And I'm glad she's not hurting anymore. But do I miss my baby? Oh my God, yes. I miss her so much. I really do. I really do. But I'm thankful for the cheerleaders that let me in their life. Jada, her crab sister, as they call her, she's cheering for the Saints. They gave me a weekend in New Orleans where I got to see the Saints opener and see Jada cheer. Jada and Arlene were really close. They were going to be roommates the next year. And Jada studied with Arlena, and she was like, they couldn't believe not Arlena. Arlena was the goofy person who always made them laugh and asked them at practice, how are you doing? So her brother, she called him a stalker. Mama, why is he always stalking me? I said, that's what big brothers do. She's like, Mama, this is not normal. My brother stalks my location. He loved his little sister. And we made sure we put that in the book so that people know that, hey, she had the family support she needed. It's just she chose. And she said, Mama, she said, like she said in the post on Instagram, I chose water because it's the least painless. She was hurting so much that she was trying to analyze how she could end this pain. That's just how bad she was hurting.
Thank you so much for, opening us up, opening yourself up to us, and sharing a little bit more about Arlena. And similar, Kym, she also shared more about her son, and the strength and the pain that you two have is palpable. And I do just want to acknowledge the courage that it takes, like every single day, every single moment, every single day, to continue to go on. And Janice, you mentioned having faith, and I want to acknowledge Kym, when you were saying that you may struggle with like the spirituality and the religion, but the name of your foundation is Hilinski's Hope. And so I think they are similar words. And I also want to say that one of the main symptoms that we look for in those who I have identified depression is if they do feel hopeless. And so, I think hope is a fitting word for the foundation. I also just wanted to thank you all for having me. I unfortunately do have to transition, but I feel like student athletes and athletics in general can do a better job of acknowledging those athletes who are speaking up and speaking out about it and are excelling as well. They are able to have both mental health concerns as well as success as an athlete. And so I just hope that that can be a role model. I also, in doing a little bit more research, I learned about a wearable wristband that is for athletes specifically that monitors both mental health and physical health. And so it could be maybe something that could be helpful, but it's called Whoop Unite. The name is interesting, but it is WHOOP Unite. And so that is a wearable wristband it's for athletes in particular because of this issue of mental health increasing in the population. So I wanted to make sure you all knew about that resource.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tillman. Or Dr. Jazz, we truly appreciate your taking the time to coming on. And I know that you will be one of those persons to continue the work. As you said, just having other athletes and peers to just kind of be aware and open up and talk about things is so important. And I did get a chance, as Kym mentioned, to see that at UCLA when we were there, as she mentioned, with the young man that was that just kind of was being very emotional, and other guys rallying and coming, to his side, and then checking in on him later. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted us to have this conversation, so that we can just keep reminding everyone that it's not that you're not alone, as we've been saying, but it's not just one person. It takes a village, and we all have to just be aware and to do something to speak up, speak out, and get involved. So I do thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you and just sharing the message of taking care of yourself in the future.
Absolutely. I'm
Okay.
happy to help. I would love to help in the future if there's any other things that you need support with.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Well,
much for
thank you.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
All right.
Nice to
Enjoy
meet
your
you all.
afternoon.
Nice to meet you all.
Yes. Well, I mean, this sometimes I feel like I'm not sure what to say, because the two of you, Kym and Janice, your life is so different, in some ways than mine, but similar in the same, just in having a love for our kids and experiencing. All three of us have athletes, and maybe you too, Christine, that have had injuries, which really took a lot, out of our kids mentally, and just trying to keep going academically as well. But getting the word out and being present is so important. And I know that, Janice, when you mentioned that you would like to do a summit every year, I know you will do a summit, and you have some new supporters that will help you,
Yes.
in everything that you're doing. And I know, like, I chose to come on and talk today and this week because it is Student Athlete Mental Health Week. And that was something that was started by Hilinski's Hope Foundation. And I think it is so important to keep coming onto campus and bringing the message, engaging student athletes. So I did want to talk about that also, Kym, because I know it's been a tour. And how many schools have bought into the program participating this year?
I think we're just about at 200. And when we started, it was like 16 schools, right? And originally, my husband just reached out to all the schools in the SEC. I think we had BYU, that was part of it too. And then it doubled, and then it doubled, and we renamed it. It started out as College Football Mental Health Week, but really the week was about all of our student athletes, right? The helmet decals, the cheer ribbon, the hair ties, the lapel pins for the coaches, and our wristbands. And so it's become Student Athlete Mental Health Week. And you mentioned HBCU schools. We play Northwestern plays Howard University tomorrow, and they're part of the week. And I know, Nina, you shared, I think it's your alma mater is part of Student Athletes Mental Health.
Actually, in my hometown, Winston-Salem State University, my mother, that's her alma mater. She graduated from Winston-Salem State, and then lots of family at North Carolina Central. So I was really happy to see that, they had come on board and that message is shared there also. And I think, Janice, you and I and Kym, we spoke about this briefly. They're just different people, sometimes different backgrounds, communities. Sometimes the message is not, getting out as much, or is not talked about as much. And so I'm happy to see that we're talking about it, because we have the student athletes who are less likely to talk about the challenges that they're dealing with. We have different demographics, that are not talking about it. So it's so important to bring this into communities, and also to hear from Dr. Jazz about the services that are available, and making sure that the kids know to take advantage of them, because you do have some people who don't have the benefit of having counseling sessions and being able to pay, per hour for someone to talk to. So it's so important that we know about the services that are available, and that we actually encourage the kids to go in and take advantage of those services.
So we've been to campuses where there's one mental health professional for the entire student body, not just the student athletes, the entire student body. And I can share with you, this counselor said that she has a hard time sleeping every night. Her phone is always turned on and up and high. And she just worries. And I can't imagine, well, I know what it's like to sit in our sadness, right, Janice? But to have, that professional worry too. And how are my student athletes doing? How is that student doing? To go to bed every night with that worry is tough. And then there are, like, the University of Alabama, right? They have 10 mental health professionals just for their football team. So, it's so vast, the difference of mental health support on campuses. And Christine, in high school, I don't even know if there are mental health professionals in high schools. I think what the counselors was they were just trying to help you get into college, right?
Yes.
And scheduling your classes and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's changed. It's been a minute since, 5 years since we've had someone in high school. How is it, Christine, in high school now?
Well, it's changed, I think. And I just didn't notice it before we lost Tyler, but there are academic counselors, college counselors, and mental health counselors now, it seems like. And I think it's always going to be based on the affluent areas that people are into. I mean, I'm sure, the socioeconomics of certain areas are gonna be, people will be disadvantaged and not have access to the type of care that you can get in areas where there's more money, which is sad and sickening in so many ways. But I think the more we make noise and talk about it, and then they can't ignore it. Maybe that'll be the case. The public school systems or the educational boards won't be able to ignore it as much as maybe they have in the past. So And I think most of the time people are doing the best they can with the funds that they have. And, but I know that money is a big plays a big role in who has access and who doesn't, both in the private and public sector.
We were at Lamar University, which I think, Janice, is at Beaumont, Texas. Does that Lamar University? So it's a very it's a poor community, right? And this Tyler taught, there were probably over 500 student athletes there, and AD was there, their coaches were there. And I think they had a few mental health professionals on staff, and the athletic trainers, who I think play a very big part in the role of our student athletes. They see them every day. They tape them up. They ice them down. They see, that maybe the possible changes in them. But I remember being at Lamar and thinking, we got to do more. We have to do more. And if I could, I would raise millions of dollars. And this, Christine, and I would spread it all over the place and hire as many mental health professionals for every school that I can. And it's sadly, you're right, Christine, it does come down to money and the affluent. And that, you're right, it's a terrible feeling. Really.
Yeah. That definitely is true. But, I think about like how we've come to know each other. Like, Kym, for some reason, I just felt that I wanted to reach out to you and meet you and invite you to come out and, share with our college football moms
Chrissy, you were there
at luncheon. Yes, and Christine was there. And I don't know, for some reason I said, we get together, we share because we have kids who play sports. We do a lot of things, but we are the people who are going to advocate. I mean, certainly we have a support system, but we are the primary ones that are going to advocate and that are seeing the kids come home, knowing, all the things that they go through outside of what people see on the fields and on TV and such. So I just remember you were so gracious and you answered right away and you said, okay, yeah, I can come. And what do you need? Do you need me to contribute to anything? And I know the same, when I said I wanted to reach out to Janice, you said, okay, I have, I can get her number and then I can put you guys in touch. And I think this is really what is needed, just for us to first reach out to someone and see who we can get to help and to do something. And for me, the thought started as a fundraiser. I said, I know the work that you do, Kym, with the foundation, you and your husband, Mark, and Christine and the rest of your family. And I was just thinking, I know what you do and I know that it costs, but I know how important it is for you to be there with the kids looking at you and engaging and knowing what this is all about and being encouraged to speak up, to, let it be known that they're not okay. So, I think just little things that we can do, like with the fundraiser, I asked, whatever you can give. I know that Tyler's number is number 3. And so, when we talked about raising funds, I said, okay, well, can I get each of like my mom's group? Can we get one person to bring in 2 other people? So we have 3 women. If you give $3, that's $9. That's going to make a difference somewhere. That I know, there are airline tickets, there are decals, there are wristbands, there are T-shirts, all of the things that we do to at least get someone to ask the question, start the conversation. And I think that that's what we need to do. And money is a big part of it, but there are little steps, that we all can take to get us there, for sure.
I mean, you're a firecracker, right? I just remember, what you do and your podcast too, and how you care so much about student athletes. And I know Theo's, now playing professional football, but I love that you still embrace this space, that it's still so important to you. And you were so right. Moms Moms are the best, right?
I mean, we really are, and we've been at this. I know Janice and you, Kim and Christine. We've been at this for since our kids were what, like 3, 4, 5 years old with sports. So, and not that the fathers are, men are not invested, because certainly they are, but there's a little difference, in, I guess, the way we feel, the way we nurture, and we're willing to pick up the baton and do what we have to do to keep fighting for our kids.
Doing that, and I'm so grateful for your work. And it's so unselfish of you. It's just wonderful, and I don't know. It's like you said, it's going to take a village to change things, but I truly do believe that things are changing, and I don't think our athletes fear reaching out and asking for help anymore. And I think it goes all the way up, right, from our Olympians, our professional athletes who are really leading the way, who say, I've been struggling with my mental health. Don't be afraid. If I can stand on this gigantic platform, this worldwide platform, and talk about my mental health struggles, then we've got to let 10-year-olds, when Dr. Jazz shared that. And I do know about, I hear those stories, I read those stories. 10-year-old, they should be watching SpongeBob. The struggles that are, it's the bullying, right? And that's why we love Caleb Cares so much, and his platform that he uses too. I don't know why or how even a 10-year-old understands that to take their own life, right? It's hard for me to even process that. And I know, Christine, you understand maybe more of this because of your field and what you do, and how all the reading that you have. But do you have any information on why it's 10-year-olds?
No, and my background is in healthcare, just so everyone knows. But I work on the pharma side of things, and in particular right now in oncology. So I don't really have. I wish I had a grasp on mental health more so than I do, and I try to learn a lot, just like you, Kim, and Mark, and Janice, and Nina. We just, I think, absorb as much as we can, and. But so no, I don't know. I think it is sickening. Actually, it feels terrible to know that kids so young are processing a way out of their pain in that way. It just, I don't understand it. But I think it's probably a lot due to exposure and social media, and the way television and films are now depicting things more graphically. And that would just be my guess, that kids are just more exposed than they've ever been before. And I don't know that, I know we talk about statistics and things have gotten, quote, worse, but I often wonder, have they really gotten worse, or do we just know more? Have we just heard more? They talk about crime rates and stuff, and they say, oh, crime rates really haven't gotten worse. It's just we hear more about it. And so I don't know. I wish Dr. Tillman was on still to kind of give us an insight into that. But the work that you're all doing is incredible. And the more exposure that people have, the common person has to this, the more normal conversations will become, if that's even whatever normal is. But I'm proud of all of you so much, and my heart breaks for you, Janice. And
thank you.
I know.
And Nina, you're amazing, Nina. You are.
You're so sweet.
You said I don't know what drew me to Kim, but I know it's because you have the heart of a lion. You are just, and you want to help anybody you can help, and you know what it's like. You've got a son who's played and been through it all, So
Absolutely.
we're grateful for you so much.
Well, I truly appreciate that, and I know how, excuse me, important it is for Kym to have someone. I feel like, aside from Mark, you're like her backbone because you are in there, doing the work on a regular basis, and just touching base and keeping her going. That is so important.
Yeah.
And I was just happy to hear from Janice that she has such a great support system, with her church and the people at the university, because I know that makes a huge difference.
It does.
It really does. Absolutely. And I wish I had a copy of your daughter's book.
I
Or
know
the
the book was
book
just released
honoring
yesterday. It was
Elena.
just
I
released
know.
yesterday.
Well, I look forward to it. Christine and Kym, did you see you saw the picture, right?
It's so great.
I shared it with Christine. We can get it, Janice, on Amazon. How do we get
Yes, on Amazon. We're waiting on Barnes and Nobles and Target. And my goal is to do a book release at Barnes and Nobles in Cedar Hill.
Good for you. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Is it pre-order right now on Amazon, or is
Yes,
it
ma'am.
pre-order? Okay.
I think the people who ordered yesterday said they'll have it tomorrow. Yeah, they have it tomorrow.
All right. Well, I'm going to get on and get mine.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Well, and the women in our college football moms group, the founder, Stacy McCall Harris, she has a camp where she works with young girls to, just promote positivity, confidence. And she saw the cover and she was like, "Oh, we have to get that book for all of the girls." And I know it's definitely, absolutely, I know it's going to encourage, as Elena said, to encourage people to speak up and to speak out and ask for help. But I don't know. We just we've covered, we've really shared today, and it's been so heartfelt. And I just want to make sure that we're able to just continue to network and keep the movement going. I know, we did the fundraiser, started the fundraiser, and it's kind of been up and active, and I appreciate everyone who made a donation. And then we have the auction, we have the silent auction, and people have been bidding on items there. And, for me, it's just about doing what we can, anything that we can. I do my part, and, Christine did her part. Then, we all can do something. I'm seeing comments here on the side. This is new for me. But there was one person on Facebook, and I don't see the name, but we've touched on this before, and they were just saying that they were late joining us, but they were wondering, since like Kym and Janice, since your Tyler and Elena were so great at the sport that they played, and they seemed to be happy and healthy and loved on. They were just wondering if there were any signs. And I know that we did touch on that sometimes there just aren't any signs. And that's why we really have to stay in tune and just be as observant and go that extra mile. Like I call Theo, I text him throughout the day with a heart. I love you. And, some people say, "Oh, well, he's a boy, he's a grown man, and sometimes you don't need to check in." But I feel that I do.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I think it's wonderful. Yeah. Signs, we didn't have any. In the video that we showed, Tyler and that triple overtime winning by 3, there's that 3 all over the place. That was just a few months before he passed, right? That was September. And, then he was gone in January. So, you look at that pie chart, and there's this little sliver of people who passed by suicide without seeking help, without showing any signs. Tyler was that sliver, just no signs. And his brothers were his best friends. I mean, Tyler is his aunt and his godmother, right? And no signs. He was close to his cousins, close to his grandparents. And he was just gone one day. And I'm with you, Janice. That is exactly why we started doing what we're doing, is we don't want another mom, another dad, another brother, sister, godmother, grandparent, teammate, right? To suffer the pain that we deal with every second of every single day. It's 5.5 years later, and I cry every single day, and the whole 7 stages of grief. The one stage that I never experienced was that mad. They say that you do all this, and there's this stage of being mad at the person that passed. I never have been mad at Tyler. A couple times I say, buddy, why? Why couldn't you reach out and just ask for help? And I don't know. I say this all the time too. I don't know the why. And when I see him again, I don't even think we'll talk about why. I just think we'll just be so glad that we're back, that our spirits are back together again. But I'll tell you what, if I do ever find out the why, I will be so transparent and share that. But Christine played an instrumental part in this. We didn't find Tyler's phone after he passed. We found his laptop. We found his iPad. We couldn't find his phone. It showed up 6 months later. He actually hid it in the floor heater in his apartment. It was the last thing he touched before he touched the AR-15. So we get the phone back, and Christine, she's a lot like you, Nina. You tell the story, Christine. I love it. I mean, as much as I hate it, I love what you did.
Well, my brothers, Mark and Scott, had actually found an organization that could break into phones. So I guess everybody knows iPhones are difficult, right? If you put the password in more than 10 times, it wipes the phone clean and you lose everything. Wow. So there was that dread that Mark and Kym had of like trying a couple passwords, but not wanting to get too close to that number. And as Mark and Kym tell, Tyler didn't have sophisticated passwords. He just used, everybody could open his phone. Like he had 1, 2, 3, 4, or 3 threes or whatever. And so I think they were all shocked that they couldn't open his phone when it was found. And so this organization that works mostly with the military and government and police agencies, there's 2 of them in the world, essentially, one in Israel and one, I think they're also Israeli, but they work in the US too. Somehow I got a phone number, and I know we talk about sometimes kismet or, things happen and it's just strange, but I just dialed the phone number, and the guy who answered the phone was not the guy who should have answered the phone. He was like a vice president of something for the organization. And I just cried and said, I need your help. We need your help. We don't know what to do. We have to open this phone. And this gentleman got us to the right people, and they made it happen. So I don't know that we learned a whole lot from his phone, but one thing we did learn was that he had changed his password, and the password was six numbers, and they gave us these numbers, and I just wrote them down on a piece of paper, and I kept trying to identify the letters that would go with the words, or the letters that would go with the numbers, and the only word we could come up with was sorry. It was SORRYY. So there's 6 letters, obviously, and sorry is 5, but it was, I think, his way of saying, I'm sorry, I have to leave.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I look at things a little differently. I've had a really big struggle with religion too, or God, but I guess I've come to the realization that God doesn't control what happens on earth. Accidents, illnesses, terrible tragedies, they happen. And God is just our way to get through it, or to manage it. That's how I see it. And by helping other people like you're all doing. I don't know how you do it every day. I really don't.
You would do it too. Well, you do it. I mean, you do, Chrissy.
Yeah, but I'll never, I mean, I hate to say it, I hope I never know. I hope, and as much as I love him, Tyler, but he wasn't my son.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Anyway,
sorry.
No, it's
I'm a
okay.
crier.
This is what this is, and this is what this is about. It's not an easy conversation. And I have cried just, looking at pictures and reading and seeing videos and just, thinking about what it must be like to go through this. So again, like you said, it's important that we do this so that hopefully no one else does. No one else has to experience it. Yeah.
It's a journey that we don't wish on anybody, right?
Nobody.
No. Yeah.
And if you know what, if you and I decided to fade away, Janice, I think people would understand, right? I always tell people, the beginning, we told ourselves we had 3 choices, right? And there's that 3 again. The first one is we were just going to stay in California, and Chrissy knows this, and I was just going to just ignore it. We were going to lie to ourselves and tell us that, Tyler was on a mission. He was going to come back. We were going to see him eventually. He was just on a long, long, long vacation. And that wasn't the truth, right? And then the second one is that I was just going to take Mark and Kelly and Ryan, and we were going to run away. I always say we're going to find an island. And he always says, what island do you think? And I'm like, no, nobody. It's a metaphor. And so we were just, going to run away and just try to breathe and live and maybe smile, again. And that just running away, that's not my personality. And so we chose the third option, which was to start Hilinski's Hope and work hard to help others. And we chose the path of student athletes because that's what Tyler was. That's what so many of his cousins, are. And that's what his brothers were. We still have one that's still playing, college football. And it just seemed right for us. And I do always say someday we're going to go to that island. And I don't know when it will be. 60 is like right around the corner. And I think like maybe when I'm 80, maybe in a few more years or so, I'm just going to keep doing this, and I don't know. Chrissy, you're going to come with me. Nina and Jonas, you're welcome to come.
I might go first. I'll prepare the island for all.
Yeah.
I'm laughing, but I went to Hawaii and spent 10 days in Hawaii for the first time this summer, and it was the best gift to myself. And I said, I'm going again next year, and I can retire soon again. And I said, my family was laughing. I said, I think I'm going to retire and move to Hawaii for real because nobody's going to travel 8 to 9 hours to come see me.
Yeah, that is a long time.
And it's very peaceful. And I was like, you're serious? I said, yeah, I can retire in a year and a half. And I was like, that was our joke with Arlene when she graduated from college. Mom, you will be retiring again. And I want to I said, Hawaii I loved it. It's so peaceful. That sunrise and sunset every day for 10 days. I was like, oh my God. I could do this. And my family, I was like, y'all not gonna come visit me 9 hours. No.
It is a special place.
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of a staycation right now at home because now that Theo's off on his own, I'm here and trying to figure out what next, what to do with my life, because for so many years everything was based on, we had this competition, we had to go travel here. Okay, then playing 6 years in college, I was committed to being there for every game. So, traveling and just, being a part of this, like from what you were saying, Kym, it's hard to just kind of let go because you're part of this group. We talk about this. I know Stacy and I talk about this. You're part of, we're our own sorority, being sports moms. You once you get in it, it's kind of hard to, you just don't get out of it. And it is different. It's different, not having my son playing in college, but I know so many kids who are still playing, and of course, involved with moms on a regular basis. And then you start to see these kids go on to the NFL and the XFL, CFL, and X League, and so you're still there. You're still engaged. You're still watching and wishing them well. And again, for me, when I look at these young men and women who are playing sports, I just want the best for them. And anything that I can do to make a difference, which is where I feel I'm at right now. Even though, well, my son is playing professionally, but I feel like there is just such a need. I see where people are kind of right at that time where they could use the help, they need the guidance. It's very tough. But then I also see where, the professional players, like a lot of my son's former teammates who are playing in the NFL now, with the draft and not being drafted and then being cut and then being traded. And, it's an ongoing battle in a sense. So it's just an ongoing challenge for athletes in general. So, whatever.
Well, I know where you're going next. You're going to Japan. Like, when is your trip?
Yeah, I'm going to Japan. Well, actually, the first week in November. So I'm really excited. And Theo's just so low key about everything. So he's like, "Oh, Mom, I'll be home soon," because they have a shorter season, and they have maybe 3 games left, and depending on where they are in the playoffs. So I'll be going soon to visit, and it's so hard with him being over there and me being here. It's so challenging, and I'm good. The I'm good. That doesn't work as well for me. So what I do is I've started doing the audio messages so he can hear my voice. And then I saw that he sent me a couple. So I was like, okay, I could at least hear his voice, and then FaceTime, so I could look in his eyes and so I could just hear and see, how he's doing. So, yeah, I thought for a minute, okay, we took a little break and he was healing and working on his studies, his graduate studies at Oklahoma. But, I'm back in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Good
but
trip.
there were some people who did ask about, maybe just making sure that they.
We lost you, Nina. You
Can't
muted
hear
yourself.
you.
There we go.
I think it's muted on the screen.
It's muted.
Second.
There she is.
There you go.
Okay. I'm not really hearing anything with the.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. So I did a little banner. Like I said, this is all very new to me. So I did a banner which should have been, you should see it on the screen. And this was just for the fundraiser page because like we were saying, there's just work that needs to be done. And, we have to support in every way that we can. Do you see that, Christine?
No, but it's probably on the Facebook Live, huh?
Okay.
Not on
All
the
right.
host site.
So it was just the link to the personal fundraiser page that I started, and certainly just we want people to support in any way, anyhow. So I encourage everyone to go to hilinskishope.org and contribute to helping to continue to bring the word to student athletes, to help provide services in any way that is possible. And I don't know if there's anything else that Kym,
here's
Janet.
the book too.
Oh, thank you. I was going to do that, but I wasn't sure. Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
I love that.
Sure
And
is.
the message is, just so necessary.
Thank you. And I've got to go because it's almost 3.
Okay. And you got to get back to your class. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Janice.
Yeah. Bye,
And
Jan.
we will
Thank you. It
continue to
was nice
support
meeting
you.
you all. Thank you so much. And we have to stay in touch.
Absolutely.
We have to.
Yeah,
We will. We
I have your
certainly
number,
will.
your email. Yeah.
Thank you. It was
All
my
right.
pleasure. You guys are just amazing. You give me strength and hope.
You
So thank
too.
you. Thank you.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye. Y'all have a good weekend.
You
Yeah.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Aw.
Well, she is just so sweet. And she was saying that she wants to do more. She felt like she, would like to learn from you, Kym. And I know it's just naturally it's in her, and she's going to be able to pick up the banner and continue to advocate, just as you are. So I'm so glad that we got a chance to get together. This was so new for me, and this is a little nerve-wracking because I've never done anything live, but I was like, okay, this message, this topic, this concern that we all have is way too important to just be quiet, to be silent, and be afraid, to come out and actually share and speak.
Well, I just want to add, and I'll stop after this, but I just want to say that I hear all the time people say, oh, it's brave to speak up, or, it's strong to ask for help. And I long for a day when those words aren't associated, when it doesn't require bravery to take care of your mental health. It doesn't require all those things. And unfortunately, it's still there. And I think both you and Kym have said, we're getting better. But it's because of things like this. It's because of people like you who just pick up the torch and say, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to say the things that everybody needs to hear. And it's really like that grassroots effort. And that's how Hilinski's Hope started. Yeah. Hilinski's Hope really started very organically with just the support of Washington State University alumni and students. And it just grew from there. And it's because of people like you, too, that the world will change and things will get better. So,
well, thank you, Christine. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I did want to make sure that everyone knew, because oftentimes, when I speak of Hilinski's Hope, the people who aren't familiar, I try to explain what it is that you do. But you've really had some tremendous strides in the movement of just making sure that people are aware, and they are that certain actions are being taken, Kym, when you went to Washington. Yeah. And I know recently, can you tell us about what you were explaining as far as the National Student Athlete Mental Health Week?
Yeah, so it's a bipartisan resolution, and we're actually working with Athletes for Hope on a student athlete bill of rights. But as far as this resolution, it is called National Student Athlete Mental Health Week, and it's bipartisan, which I love. I think that's more important. Like, our politicians are putting their thoughts and all of that aside. We come together. It's I think underwritten by 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, and it's basically ran this year from September 30th to November 7th, which is the dates that we run Hilinski's Hope Student Athlete Mental Health Week. And it's basically just a week where they're recognizing the mental health of our student athletes, which is wonderful, and we're so appreciative of that. DC has been good to us, but sometimes bills just take way too long to get passed. Right. And Chrissy is helping us with one in the state of Washington, which is amazing. It's actually a commission for boys and men. Is that right, Chrissy? It's House Bill 1270.
1270.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're working on something there too, and Chrissy's going to be in the state and meeting with politicians. Is so good at that.
Oh,
she's with
great.
Well, I've learned from you and Mark, because you guys have done a lot of that.
Yeah.
So.
anyway.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
it's just people coming together, just, like what you're doing, Nina, and trying to really put good into the world and make things happen. And I wish there were more of the two of you. That's what I wish.
Aw.
That's what we need.
Well, yeah. Well, I thank you for taking time because I just know, how jam-packed your schedule is. And, like you said, it's a struggle every day to get up and to be positive and to feel good and just face the conversations that you have to have, Kym. So I truly do thank you. And I thank Mark. I don't mean to leave the man out. But he's just been kind to come in and help us get ourselves situated and always be supportive. And I really love seeing you. Whenever I see you out and about. I saw the pictures of you on the show in New York recently, and it's just great to see how much time and effort that you do put into making the world a better place for student athletes.
I always say if you knew Tyler, you would go, I get it. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And we love our student athletes. And
We do.
I don't know. I think love is the right word.
Absolutely. Well, I've grown to love the two of you. So I again just appreciate you, coming on and sharing and allowing me to be a part of, the wonderful work that you do. And I do encourage everybody to make any kind of contribution, whether it be volunteering, just spreading the word, making a donation. Again, we all can do something, a little something.
Oh, and Nina's
Yes.
silent auction is amazing.
Really?
I've already bid on some items. So if anybody wants to find it too, we'll post it again on Hilinski's Hope social media.
Yes,
so
yes,
that
we
people
will.
can easily click on and get some great items while helping a
I
lot of people.
know. Okay. Well, I appreciate you mentioning that again. It was just another way to say, okay, how can we make this happen? And my world is in retail, and so I always have great supporters, vendors, and people who are like, "What are you doing?" Oh, yes, definitely. Like, it's a great cause, and they wanted to help support. So, okay.
Very nice.
Well, thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. And thank you everyone who listened in. I wasn't able to see all the questions and the comments, but I certainly appreciate everybody that took the time to log on and to listen and to learn more. And I know that our conversation has definitely sparked an interest and fire and just inspired people to get involved and do all that they can.
Well, thank you, Nina.
Okay, you're welcome.
So much.
And we'll talk.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Love you both.
All right.
All righty.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.